Okay, today we're going to talk about exponents. Now, in regards of exponents, I want to talk about in a four-part series of videos about introducing exponents, multiplying exponents, dividing exponents, and also having powers of exponents. Now, the intro of exponents, and I'm going to start off with a really simple one. Say if you had 2 raised to the second power, 2 raised to the third power, 2 raised to the fourth power, and so on. I'll do 2 to the fifth power. What does this mean? Well, I'm going to look at 2 to the fifth power real quick. I'm going to put it right down here. I don't know how many times I see students put 2 to the fifth power as 10 because what they're doing is they're saying 2 times 5. That is not what an exponent means. What an exponent means is you take 2, and that exponent is 2, so that means you multiply 2 by itself twice. So 2 times 2 is 4. Now take a look at 2 to the third power. That means I'm multiplying 2 3 times. 2 times 2 times 2. So 2 times 2 right here is 4. 4 times 2 is 8. Now 2 to the fourth power. That would be 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. So 2 times 2 is 4. This other 2 times 2 is 4. So 4 times 4 is 16. And finally, 2 to the fifth, you could say 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. Let me work this out. And basically what you're doing is, since you're multiplying another 2, we know 2 to the fourth is 16. Multiply by 2 and you get 32. Now, let's just say we have a negative exponent, or a negative number in the parentheses. So I'm going to just say negative 2 squared, negative 3 squared, let's see what we get. Now, calculators, make sure if you do this in your calculator, you put these in parentheses, because if you don't, what your calculator is going to read, if you put it in negative 2 squared, it's going to do orders of operation, so it's going to do exponents first, which would be 4, and you'd have a negative there. So let's take a look at these two real quick. This is negative 2 squared equals negative 2 times negative 2, which is 4. Negative 3 squared is negative 3 times negative 3. 2 negatives make a positive, that's why it's 9. Now let's take a look at what happens when I have maybe negative 2 squared, negative 2 to the third, negative 2 to the fourth, and negative 2 to the fifth. So we already know negative 2 times negative 2 is 4. Negative 2 to the third power is negative 2 times negative 2 times negative 2, which would be 2 to the third is 8, But watch this, I've got 3 negatives, so that means my answer is -8. Next, -2 to the 4th power means I've got 4 of these -2's. Now, if I want to do this, -2 times -2 is 4. -2 times -2 is 4. 4 times 4 is 16. And finally, -2 to the 5th means I've got -2 times -2 is 4. Another -2, -2 is 4. And then I've got this -2 right here. So -4 times -4 is 16. Times another -2, -32. Now I want you all to take a look at the patterns. The patterns, if you look at your even exponents, when you've got a negative number raised to an even number, you always get positive. Now, let's take a look at the odd exponent of the odd powers. So if you have a negative number raised to an odd power, that gives you a negative number. Now, what happens when we have something like, and I'll put a few of these examples, a -3 squared and a -3 to the 3rd? Well, there's several ways we can look at it. So I'm going to show us a couple different ways how I would approach this. For the first one, we could say, okay, you've got this negative sign, but then you also have -3 times -3. So look at this. I've got 1, 2, 3 negative signs. So since that's an odd number, that means my answer is going to be negative. And 3 times 3 is 9. Now what happens when I have it to the 3rd power? So in this case, you could do this. You could treat this negative as a -1. And then you could say -3. You got 3 of them. Now watch to see how many negatives we have. We have 1, 2, 3, 4. That is an even number. So it means my answer is going to be positive. So what is my answer? Okay. 1 times 3 is 3. Times another 3 is 9, times another 3 is 27. And it's going to be a positive 27. Now we can do the same thing with fractions. And I know a lot of us here are going to shake your head. You're going to shut down on me because I've used the fraction word. Let's just take a look at this. Let's do -1/2 squared and -1/2 to the 3rd power. Now, what I would do, or what I like to do, is to come out and see, okay, what is my answer going to be? It's going to be positive or negative. So if I'm looking at right here, I know my answer is going to be positive because that's an even power. So I know that's -1/2 times -1/2. So when you do this, you multiply your top numbers. -1 times -1 would be a positive 1. And your denominator, which is 2 times 2, which is 4. Now let's take a look at the one with the 3 as your exponent. So I'm going to predict your answer is negative. So I'm going to say -1/2 times -1/2 times -1/2. And what happens is I've got 3 negative signs, So I know my answer is negative. So that means I'm going to multiply the top numbers, 1 times 1 times 1, which is 1. And then 2 times 2 times 2, which is 8. So this is my answer, negative 1/8. And finally, I'm going to give one where maybe you have something like this, a negative 4 times 2 to the third. And maybe you have negative 4 times negative 2 to the third. So in either one of these cases, I would just break your problem down. I would say negative 4, and then I've got 2 3 times. Now watch what this gives you. Since you only have one negative sign, your answer is going to be negative. So all you have to do is say, multiply. Well, 2 times 2 times 2, I know is 8. Times this negative 4, that's where you get a negative 30. Now take a look at the second part of this. I've got a negative 4, and then now I've got 3 negative 2's. Now count up your negatives. How many negatives do you have? You have 4. That is an even number, so I know my answer is going to be positive. So now what I want to do is I want to go ahead and I'm going to say, okay, negative 4 times negative 2 is a positive 8. Negative 2 times negative 2 is a positive 4. Multiply these together and I get a positive 32. So this right here is my introduction to Exponent. And like I said before, I plan on having a 4-part series of exponents. My next video will focus on multiplying exponents. Thank you for listening.